3, 2, 1. Ready? MACtion.
It's going to be tipped and caught! It's caught! It's caught! It's a touchdown, West Virginia!
Daniel out of the pocket. He's going to try and run for it. Breaking tackle. Down. He gets caught. He lost the football.
And he scores on the last play of the game! Unbelievable! Holy guacamole! Watch this hit right here! By Dejon Anthony. He said, "Give that man some milk!"
Don't you dare skip that channel. You are tuned in live with Talking MACtion.
Welcome on into really the first official episode of a Talking MACtion that will be on across the sports world. Yes, I know there's already an episode of Talking MACtion on there, but this is the first one that's made specifically for the YouTube channel. I'm Clary. I'm your host for Talking MACtion. We have an interesting episode here for you today, and I am going to point you at the new YouTube account for Across the Sports World. It's spelled exactly like you think it is. Type that in. It will be a black logo. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to watch the video where I go across the tailgate and interview some Notre Dame fans, some Miami, Ohio fans. It was an exciting video. So make sure to click on that and subscribe. This won't be a super long episode. We'll talk about some scores that happened last week. We had some upsets within the MAC for the first week. For some teams in the MAC, it was their first week of conference play, so first official week. Still, you have some teams that sprinkle in some non-conference throughout the year, but this is really the first time that we have a mass amount of conference games. The first one, that's on the ESPN app that we'll talk about, and we'll talk about it long, is Penn State thrashes Kent State. Kent State 0-4 as expected, and boy, this schedule has only proven to get harder over time. St. Francis gets their first win against an FBS opponent. Pitt hasn't lost a game yet. They're 4-0. They beat West Virginia and Cincinnati, Youngstown State as well. You have Penn State, who's obviously undefeated. They don't schedule a hard non-conference. Tennessee, they're undefeated as well. That was their opponent week 3. They haven't had an easy go at it. This team has struggled. And now they're down to Utatowski. It's a hard name to pronounce. He's going to be the guy again at Kent, and probably for the remainder of the year if he can stay healthy. Why I say that? Well, when your starter and your backup both get hurt, you're down to whatever you have. I will say it's not a bad guy to have as your option, but compared to third-string quarterbacks for a Group 5, I think he is decent. But he isn't the guy that you have as your starting quarterback. Not the guy that you think's your best arm talent, your best leader. And now they obviously do think he's a leader because of everything he does in the locker room. They obviously have him a captain for a reason. But again, we'll talk about this week. I'll be at that game. We'll have a photographer at that game as well. But you almost got to think, is this team in trouble? Are they in serious issues? I mean, they may not win a game. We can see a reality here where Kent, they have less wins than last year, and they only had one just a season ago. That's not the progression that this program wants. Obviously so. You hire Kenny Burns, and he has this Kent Grit era, and you expect him to lead this team to be better, to fight more. We haven't seen that. We haven't seen that fight. Yeah, they've had moments at times where they're tough, but like you look at them now, you compare them to Akron, which is the most comparable team. They're not better than Akron. Akron's shown fight against Ohio State. They've shown a little bit against Rutgers, and they have a win. Granted, it was against not a great team they should have blown out in Colgate. But you compare them to Kent State, and there's more talent on that team, and they play better together. And we'll find out more about Akron They're on the road at Ohio. We'll talk about that later on a little bit more. But you look at that and you think, Akron can compete. They can win that game even. But I look at any other game in the schedule, especially this next week, I don't see Kent winning. That's a problem for this program. They're in a tough spot. I don't know how they get out of it. The fact that them losing Lewis as their coach has set them this far back is unbelievable. And I don't think Kenny Burns is a bad coach. I actually like Kenny Burns as a coach. I think there's something there as him as a head coach or a coordinator even. But right now, the fruits of his labors he's not seeing quite yet. And we saw that against Penn State. Again, when you go against a top team in the country, you're going to have that. Miami showed some fight against Notre Dame, but I mean, they played really conservative. They didn't give up a point in the first. They showed fight. They put the first points up in the second quarter, and after that, it was all Fighting Irish. Again, they fought. They only gave up 14 in the second quarter, and then 7-7. 7-7. But Riley Leonard had 12 carries for 143 yards. He only threw for 154 in the air. They did a good job holding him back in that wide receiver room back. But boy, he was able to do whatever he wanted when he ran the ball. Our big upset, believe it or not, was within the MAC. NIU, they lose to Buffalo in a last-second field goal in overtime. All Buffalo had to do was sink a field goal in, and they'll win. And that's exactly what we saw from Buffalo. Buffalo. We'll talk about the power rankings. Forgot to talk about the power rankings. Got to be pretty happy with them, right? It's hard not to be. Buffalo has fought in every way imaginable, and they've played well for the most part. This defense is serious. If you don't believe in this defense, then you haven't been watching Buffalo. What Dolak's been doing as their linebacker has been impeccable. He's a good defensive player. He is shown to be tough. It's just he's good. He's that good, and he's leading this team. And they've done a good job surrounding this team with talent of people that believe in what they're doing, and they believe in Limbo. And Limbo's put a good coaching staff together. This team's well coached. They brought in some transfers that are contributing. This running back room. I mean, let's look at some of the stats of the running back room. For Buffalo, Terry Brown was the leading rusher for the game. Well, NIU, they were projected to win the entire way until the very, very end of the game. Let's look at some box scores here. Yeah, oh my gosh, a lot of guys ran the ball here. 7 guys ran the ball. Alja Henderson, he had 11 carries, 56 yards, and a touchdown. Victor Snow ran the ball. Jaquez Barksdale ran the ball. Messiah Burke ran the ball. Terrence Shelton Jr. ran the ball. Lamar Sperling, which he only had 2 carries. I'd like to see a bit more. Ogbonna, he, again, 9 carries for negative 18 yards. I'm sure some sacks contributed to that as well. Let's see how many sacks in NIU had. Oh, they had 4, so that makes sense why he has so many negative yards in that department. This is listen, you're going to see where they are in my power ranking for a reason. Buffalo's good. They're good. NIU's good too. They just slipped against a really good opponent here. Buffalo, a lot of people viewed them to be one of the worst teams in the MAC. Right? They didn't think they had a lot going forward here. Little do we know, they have the best defense in this conference. It looks to be that way. And I don't see a lot of teams that have shown me that their offense is capable, other than Toledo, that their offense is capable of moving the ball down the field consistently against Buffalo for 4 straight quarters. And you did it for one half. They completely failed for a half in an overtime. I'm telling you, Dolak, he's a game changer. And he made the biggest play of the game there in the fourth quarter. It's a reason why they were in position to win the game in overtime. Because of his performance so far this season, this guy is going to lead this team to a bowl game and maybe further. I wouldn't be surprised if we get to week 8 and Buffalo still hanging around. I wouldn't be shocked by that, and I don't think you should be either. This is a good team, and they're proving that they're not just going to roll over. They're going to fight and win games. Now that they come back and win this game late, where they're down, I think, what were they down? 17-0, I think, at one point. They were down pretty big. No, not quite, but they were down. They're down 14-3, and they come back. They score 7 in the third, 10 in the fourth. They tie the game up, only give up 6 points to NIU in that fourth quarter, and then they end up scoring the only points of the overtime. NIU opted to, or wasn't able to score there in any capacity. Really shows how tough that defense is when you have 25 yards and you can't get anything against Buffalo. Let's talk about Bowling Green. You got to be impressed. I mean, listen, you go and play against A&M. A&M's not an easy place to play. I mean, it's one of the hardest. I mean, College Station is a unique experience and one of the best in sports. It's that good. And they only lost by 6 points. You got to give credit to Bowling Green. They don't give up 6 points there. They go into overtime in the fourth quarter. I mean, they score 14 points. They outscored A&M in the third quarter. They were able to score a touchdown early on. This team's 2-2. So Bazelak, proving that he's good. I mean, through 36 passes, he was 20-36, 250 yards, and a touchdown. He's good. And then Fannin Jr., I mean, he's going to be a first-round draft pick. 8 receptions, 145 yards, 1 TD. He is the best pure ball catcher, best receiver in the MAC. And not just the MAC, but in the country. With Fannin Jr., you have to think that he's going to be a primary option in the NFL one day. And it's hard for me to think that there's another guy better than him. I don't think there is. Now, granted, there's a kid from Pitt, but I don't think he's good as a pass catcher as Fannin Jr. is. I don't think he is. I think he's maybe a better pass or run blocker. And I think combined with that, he ends up being a better tight end. But as a whole, Fannin Jr., when it comes to being a pass catcher, that kid's good. And it's going to show at that second level. Let's roll through some of these games. Kentucky, they roll right through Ohio. They score 6 at the end, but just not much you can do there. Central Michigan, they snagged a win over Ball State. Reward them pretty well, I'd say, on my power rankings. St. Francis, they lose to Eastern Michigan. Eastern Michigan now goes to Kent, so we'll see how that game goes, because St. Francis, they beat Kent State pretty convincingly just a few weeks ago. Like what I'm seeing here from Eastern Michigan to start. They have a chance of going 4-1, and that means they'll only be 2 wins away from bowl eligibility, and you have to like their odds. Yeah, Miami will be a hard game. Central Michigan, Akron, Toledo, Ohio, Buffalo, Western Michigan. Those are all tough games in the MAC, but I don't see it as being impossible for them to snag 2 wins. I mean, they can beat Miami. Miami struggled thus far. Central Michigan, they can beat. Akron, they can beat. Toledo, I don't think they can beat. Ohio, they can beat. Buffalo, we'll see how good Buffalo is there in November. And then Western Michigan. I don't know. I guess we're going to find out, but I wouldn't be shocked if we see Eastern Michigan sneaking into a bowl this year after we had low expectations for them. Toledo, they lose a tight one at Western Michigan. They fall to 3-1. Western Michigan, they boost up to 3-1. That's a team that's undefeated at home, and Toledo not able to get the win on the road. Gleason was the leading rusher for Toledo. That's not what you want to see. You want to see a guy like Stewart getting more carries and succeeding more in the run game, but that wasn't the case there. Receiving, Stewart did well with 3 receptions, 93 yards. Just a Toledo offense that wasn't able to get in the rhythm that they're capable of being in. South Carolina, they were right through Akron. We won't even talk about that. We'll just preview Akron for next week and move forward. Again, you go against South Carolina, you get what you get from that. South Carolina, they're a team that they beat up on smaller teams. So just unfortunate that you're on the wrong end of it as Akron, and hopefully going forward you can have more competitive non-conference games. Buffalo, they take on UConn. Or you know what? Before we get into next week, let's talk about my power rankings, which aren't out yet. Those will be out probably when you watch this. It'll be out, assuming you're watching this in the morning or on Friday at some point. Buffalo's my number 1 team. They jumped 3 spots. That's just thanks to the top 3 teams all losing, and I think they deserve it. Toledo, they're number 2. They actually haven't moved. They just don't go up any. I still think that they're the second best team at the very worst right now, and I was wrong with them on my preseason. I said that they were going to win maybe 7 games, and 8-9 was their max. I think that they hit 8 or 9 for sure. They're a good team, but right now they're second, despite losing to Western Michigan. NIU drops 2 spots, just due to getting upset by Buffalo, a team that doesn't have the highest expectations, but still. Again, I know Buffalo's won now, but they deserve a drop a spot. I think that their loss, was a worse loss than Toledo's loss, and I just think they have to drop a more than just 1 spot. Eastern Michigan, they move up to 4. I don't know. I don't think they'll be there for very long. I think there's a few teams below them that are capable of being better than them. I think there's teams that will be. But right now, if you win, you keep moving up. They jump 3 spots. Bowling Green loses 1 spot. They go to 5. Ohio loses 1 spot. They go to 6. Central Michigan, they go up 2. They were on the bottom of the rankings. Now they get rewarded just a little bit. Miami, they dropped 2 spots. I know they've had a tough schedule, and it's hard for me to punish them, but that's where they are right now. And we'll see if they can win games. They can keep moving up. Western Michigan, they drop a spot. No fault of their own. They didn't play. But again, just teams in front of them moving and just some kind of disasters happening in front of them. But they don't deserve to drop any more than just 1 spot. And I expect them to climb up the rankings here shortly. Akron, they drop 1 spot. They were 9. Now they're 10. Again, nothing you can do. They lost. You're 1-3. You shouldn't be up any higher. Ball State 1-2. They didn't play week 1. They stay at 11. Kent State 0-4. They stay at 12. Those are the teams I believe to be the 2 worst. I know Miami's 0-3, but I don't believe that they're one of the bottom 3, bottom 4 teams as of yet. We'll see if that changes, but I still think that's a talented team that's going to win some football games. And I think there's talent there, and they just play conservative. Buffalo, they face UConn. I'm gonna take Buffalo to win this one. I think that you can maybe roll the dice on UConn, just because Buffalo, they're on the road. This could be a game that maybe sneaks by them, and they're still celebrating the win over a ranked opponent. But if they can win and keep on rolling, who knows? Maybe Buffalo can get some votes, but I don't think quite yet. I think some the bigger dogs need to lose in order for that to happen, and they need a convincing win over UConn, which I don't know will happen. But I know this defense is going to show up. I'll pick Buffalo to win, and I will pick the spread in favor of Buffalo. It's at 5.5. Well, the spread's actually in favor of UConn, pardon me, but I think Buffalo is going to win it, win the game, and they're going to cover the spread as well. NIU, they face NC State. This was always the game I thought they were going to lose. Didn't think they were going to lose last week. Thought they would roll into this game 3-0. If they can win, they're back in the good graces of everybody. I don't think they win. I think they lose to NC State. NC State, the spread is 7. I actually think they win by more than 7. I think NIU is going to fall back to just being the normal MAC team that they are. Again, nothing against them. I just think everyone's really. I think the spread is mainly off the height of the Notre Dame win. Ball State goes against James Madison. They're 3-0. This James Madison team lost everybody, and they're 3-0, which is incredible. Their entire team went to Indiana, and they're still playing well. I'm really impressed there. James Madison, they're going to roll on by Ball State. I think that they're going to cover at 20 on the spread. Miami, they face UMass. They'll get their first win there at Oxford at home. UMass, not good. Not good at all. I think they won last week, yes, against Central Connecticut. Other than their game against Wagner, I don't know how many more wins that they're going to get here. So I'm going to have Miami winning this game by a lot. The spread is 17.5, and I like that in favor of Miami. Central Michigan goes against San Diego State. Despite being 2-2, I have San Diego State winning. The spread is 2.5 in favor of Central Michigan. I'll take it in favor of San Diego State. Western Michigan, they'll face against Marshall. Marshall winning this game and covering at 3.5. Akron, they go against Ohio. The spread is in favor of Ohio, but you know what? I think I'm going to take Akron to win this game. I'm going to take Ohio to cover the spread. I don't think if Akron wins, I don't think it will be by more than 10. I think they win by 7, even by 8 or 9, but I don't think they win by 10. Eastern Michigan, they travel to Dick Stadium. They'll face off against the Flashes, who are having a blackout. We'll see what happens. The anticipation is that Kent will have all black uniforms. Hopefully that they can compete and show that they can be competitive within the conference. Bowling Green goes against Old Dominion, who's 0-3 and having a bad start. My golly, who have they faced? Well, no wonder they've had no wonder why they've struggled. Central Carolina, they played Virginia Tech, and East Carolina, decent opponents, and they've struggled. Old Dominion, not a powerhouse by any means, so makes sense why they're 0-3. Bowling Green, I think they get the win. They'll be 2-2. The spread is 9.5. I think Bowling Green rolls them. So I would take the spread in favor of Bowling Green. Make sure to go to our YouTube channel of Across the Sports World. Like I said, this episode, we're wrapping up here. Just type in Across the Sports World. All episodes of Talking MACtion will be on there going forward. The old ones aren't on there. Just last week's episode is with some of the old imaging. But yeah, and this is just moving content over to a different spot. That's all it is. No bad blood or anything. Still with Keon Sports. Just a decision of moving content and centralizing it so it doesn't get lost within the high school football coverage, which is more important there. But here, it's all about the MACtion, and it's all about going across the sports world. And we went across the tailgate. Some really cool content there. Also, if you type in my name, Dominic Clary, on TikTok or on Instagram, even on Threads or on Facebook, you'll see all my content pop up there. And make sure to like, subscribe, follow, whatever it is, and whatever platform. Make sure to do that. And so we can get more traction on this stuff and hopefully get more support going forward so we can continue doing this. I think the next Across the Tailgate hopefully will be at the Muni Lot at one of the Browns games. We'll see how we can make it work, because I most likely have to go to work after the game, but I'll be downtown working, so it shouldn't be should be something that we should be able to do. So I look forward to doing that and seeing if we can make it possible. Thank you for watching. We'll be back next week, hopefully on Monday this time. Couldn't this time because of editing. I feel like I keep lying to you guys. But yeah, next week we'll have more consistent schedule going forward across the sports world. We'll start recording, and thanks for watching. We'll be back. Different bat time, but same bat channel. Thank you for watching and take care.